everyone, it's Denny here from Angel Handmade Papercraft. Today I am working with Kindred stamps and I'm using Family is Forever. I'm using the little girl, the leaf and the flower and one of the sentiments, and I will actually make a second bookmark and I'm going to use the little critter and one of the other sentiments. So let's get started. I've already cut the bookmarks out using a die that I have in my stash and stamped the images on using Memento Tuxedo Black, and the cardstock is Express It Blending card. So I will be colouring with Copic markers today. So I'm starting with the skin tone. I'm using E50, E51, E53, E55, and then I'm using some R20 for the cheeks. So I have left this image colouring as real time. I normally speed them up, but it was only a 15-minute video, so I thought I'll leave it all in today. So I'm starting with my normal process, which is to colour a base coat down with my lightest colour first. Very rough, doesn't have to be perfect. And then I will go in with my darkest colour and then I'll work my way back. So I did end up adding E57 to my skin blend because I wanted to go a little tiny bit darker with the skin. So I'm using E57. So I'm working my way through adding all of the shadow areas in with that darkest marker. So just trying to keep my marker up as straight as I can. That's the easiest way to get a nice thin coat of the colour. So I'm just working my way through, just extending her nose a little bit, adding some shadow to the inner of her right arm and the bottom of her left arm, and just giving some shadow onto her little feet. And I'm also adding some of the skin tone to the inside of her mouth, but I will make that a little bit darker than I normally do for the skin tone. So that was the E57. I'm now going in with the E55 and I'm going to start pulling that colour out. So I'm just going to work my way through all sections of the image and extending that colour. So this is my second project with this stamp set. I love this stamp set, it's so gorgeous. So I thought I'd make some bookmarks just to go along and to get another project out of this stamp set. So I will definitely be making a lot more projects with this in the future, but just one step at a time. So I'm just trying to work out where exactly I'm going to lay that colour down, especially when I've got quite a few skin colours to add into it. So with her feet, look, I'm not too worried about colouring over the shoes too much because I am going to colour with a red marker, so that will blend in any of that skin tone that I have done a little bit too much of, and it may have just gone onto her shoes rather than just her feet because they were so small. So I'm now going in with my E53 marker and starting to pull that colour out just that little bit more as I go, working my way around her face. So like I said, this is the E53 marker, so we're about midway of skin tones at the moment. So I'm now going to go in with the E51. Nope, I'm going to pop in her cheeks and her tongue. So I'm using the R20 and then I'm going to go back and blend that into her face. So I'm just using a flicking motion to start pulling that colour out and making sure that they're all blended together nicely. So just working my way through. So I'm now in with the E51 and I'm just starting to pull all of that colour in now. So it's starting to look more like a face now. And I didn't really worry too much about doing the E50 because I did pull that skin tone out so much. So the E51 kind of just blended it all together. So now I'm going to go in with the little leaf image and I'm going to add those leaves onto her dress. Just so it looks all Maui and Fijian. And then I'll colour around those. So I'm trying to be really, really careful to make sure that I'm only getting them onto her dress. As you can see there, I was a little bit too gentle on that one and missed the bottom of the image. So I'm just working my way through. I'm just using an acrylic block to do that, and just using a bit of scrap paper to mask off parts of her dress so that I didn't get the ink everywhere. Normally I would grab a post-it note or something, but I wasn't too worried about it here. I just used a bit of scrap paper. Alright, so wiping my stamp off. I generally keep a wet baby wipe right next to my desk so that I can always clean off those stamps as I go. And with little ones like that, always try to make sure that I put them away, because otherwise I will end up losing them. These were really nice stamps to stamp with today. They stamped quite clearly, which is really good. Alright, so I'm putting my ink away as well so I don't accidentally get my hands in them. And I'm going in with my red markers to colour her dress. So I'm using the R35 and R37 markers. And I'm going to leave those leaves white, so I'm only colouring around the outside of her dress. I don't know if you guys can hear that rain outside at the moment, but it's absolutely bucketing down at my house at the moment, which is quite nice. We need it. Our lawns are quite dry at the moment. We've been sort of having a day here or a day there of a little bit of rain, but never enough to do too much damage. So as you can see, just working my way around really carefully, trying to use just the tip of my marker so that I don't end up with any red on those leaves. So we're almost about halfway through the video at the moment. Like I said, this is completely real-time video. I haven't sped it up or anything, so ignore the little bits and pieces that you may see me moving my phone, or someone always wants to send me a message every time I start doing a video. Every time, guaranteed. I try to remember to put my phone on silent, but sometimes because my phone and my iPad and my computer, everything's all connected, so there's always something that I forget to put on silent. So sorry. Just working my way through. So her little dress is pretty much done there. I'm just adding the shadows in now and just colouring her shoes. Like I said, there's not much to those little shoes. There's kind of one little tiny strap across the front of her toes. So I'm just going to be really careful, being gentle. So I'm now adding in the R37, which is the darkest colour. I'm only using 2 tones on the dress because there is not much to the dress. So just carefully blending all of that out. Alright, so that's the red done. And the next thing to do is her hair. So I'm using some brown markers. I'm using E71, E74, E77 and E79, and I'm going to be colouring the flowers in as well. So on the flowers, what did I use on the flowers? I think it was the same as this one. So I think I used YR04 and Y18 on the little flowers, and then I'll go back in and do her hair. So I'm just working my way through one step at a time. Just did a very rough blend on that flower. It's the tone that I was kind of going for. Just grabbing all of my brown markers ready so I can do her hair. So like I said, I didn't use the tones that I was going to use, actually. I ended up going with the 40s. So I used E44, E47 and E49. So I'm just starting by adding the lightest, just a coat down first with the lightest colour. like I said, very rough. Doesn't need to be perfect on that base coat because you will be going back in and blending it all out anyway. The idea is to put a saturation down first. That makes the paper nice and moist, and it makes it a little bit easier to start blending. Now, this E49 marker was very, very juicy, so I was trying to be really careful to make sure that it didn't do any of those horrible droplets that we all know and love. I did try to leave the lid off for a little while before I used it, but not sure I waited long enough. Thankfully I did, but I'm just still being really careful. So I'm going with more of the thick kind of colouring on her hair on this one. Normally I do more of a flicking motion, but I thought I'd try something else out on this one just because she has got thick, lovely, luscious hair. Alright, so now we're going to go down a colour. So we're now going to go to the E47 and start pulling that colour out. Now the E47 and E49 didn't blend as easy together as what I thought that they would. So it did take a little bit more work to get it to blend together, but as always, everything works out. I'm just working my way around the image, pulling all of that colour out. Working my way through. So, like I said, I wouldn't normally lay down as much colour as what I am right now, but it was more just because it just wasn't blending as easy. Okay, now going in with the E44 to start pulling all of those colours in. So they're all, as you can see, starting now to start coming together. Working my way around her hair, pulling all of the colour in together. You can see how thick and luscious that hair is. Excuse the children and their noise in the background. Working my way through. I'm just starting to overblend a little bit just because there was a couple of sections that just didn't blend perfectly. And lastly, just colouring up the little leaf down the bottom. So I'm using some green markers. I'm using the YG05 and YG45. So that's the image all coloured up, ready to go. Just looking through my washi stash, trying to find a little bit of washi to run across that. And some ribbon to put through the top of the bookmark. So the ribbons that I'm using are a very, very old set of ribbons. They're called... I don't even know. Going Places is what the ribbon set's called. So it's all little travel, little stars, little cars, things like that. And of course the guy down the road with the motorbike needs to drive down right now while I'm doing a voiceover. Alright, so we're just about done. I'm just getting the back ready for the bookmark. I always put it back on because you don't want to see the Copic colouring coming through. So I just run the same die set through again and adhere it to the back. And I'm just going to pop some of that ribbon through the top. And I'm going to tie a little tiny bit of twine around it just to finish it off. We're about a minute out now from finishing the video, but that's pretty much what I'm doing, just adding a little tiny bit of washi tape on using my EK Success Cutter Bee scissors just to trim off the excess, which you can't see because I needed it nice and close to my face so I could see what I was cutting. So I've added the little bit of the silver twine around the top of the ribbon, and that's the bookmark done. So I did end up creating a second one, which I will show you in a second. And I had so much fun making these. I love making bookmarks, and especially when just doing the very simple design. So this is certainly one of those simple designs, not a lot of layers and that sort of thing. I'm just having a play now, deciding whether I'm going to make a second one. So this is the 2 bookmarks that I finished making. I hope you guys have enjoyed my video, and I will see you all soon. Bye!